What's going on, everyone? Chris here with Clutter Reduction Junk Removal, and today we're going to do a little bit of at-home marketing because didn't feel super great last night. I've been sleeping like poop for the last couple of days, so we went ahead and took some melatonin, slept in, and decided to stay home to do our marketing today. Because as I mentioned in my last video, we were planning on doing a ton of marketing all week as much as possible because June has not been what I wanted it to be this year. And it's definitely not going as well as I was hoping. So we're going to try to make it up for it in July and August because last year my May was pretty darn good, but my June, July, and August were awesome. So I'm trying to get back to that point. So we got our coffee, got our protein shake, and we got to have a positive attitude for now. So what I am basically doing right now is doing email follow-ups with people I've met recently at networking events. I am reaching out to a few local senior living facilities that I have visited in the past, but didn't quite make it up to the executive director or sales manager because they were not available. And some of them I've sent emails already, some of them I haven't. So that's what we're going to do today. So I wanted to talk real quick about kind of the way I like to interact with these different buildings, like a senior living facility, for example, or an apartment building. And I found these two things to be super helpful, and it honestly makes me feel more confident when I'm marketing, and I think it builds a little bit of trust with the person I'm talking to. So the first thing is names, and the second thing is examples from experience. So when I say names, what I'm referring to is, actually, I'll use an example. Yesterday, I went by a senior living facility that just opened up. I've been waiting for them to open. It took so long to build it, and it's finally built enough to where people are operating inside, but there's no one living there yet. So I went by yesterday, talked to the executive director. She was super excited to meet me, which is awesome because it is a drag to meet somebody that you're trying to market to, and they don't want anything to do with you. So I was talking to her and explaining what I do and giving real life examples. So what I mentioned, names and examples, I gave real life examples of the places that I deal with already. And I name dropped a few of the different senior living facilities in my area. And then I name dropped some of the managers at those places that I talk with, because from what I've learned from my fiance, who's a property manager, most higher ups at each company know the other higher ups at each comparing company in their area. Even if they're different companies, different branches, seen as maybe competitors, they still know each other, right? So I name dropped a few of the places, and then I name dropped a couple of managers, and she said, "Oh, do you know so-and-so at so-and-so place?" And I said, "Absolutely. I know he's on vacation right now in Alaska for the next 3 weeks, and I'm waiting for him to come back so we can handle a tax that he mentioned before he left and then didn't give me any information about." And she's like, "Oh, I've known him since before he even started working there." And I was like, "Oh, that's great. I like the guy. He's really nice, blah, blah, blah." And we talked for like a minute about him. And then we went back to work. And I mentioned how some of the things I deal with at senior living facilities include dealing with the clean outs after somebody passes away, or they downsize maybe into memory care, which is usually a shared, like roommate kind of style apartment. It's a lot smaller in space. Or they may move to a different facility or to intensive care, which means they're not taking everything with them because normally intensive care will provide stuff for them. So almost always something is going to be left behind to never get removed. So I mentioned the real life examples of why they would need me, and she already was nodding her head with me. And then I mentioned that we're very good with scheduling. So I'm very capable of doing same day, next day removal. When I go in, I'm very, courteous. I'm very polite with the residents. I'm not blocking the elevator. If they need, if I have a whole pile of stuff with me and I'm waiting for the elevator, and a senior resident comes by, guess who's getting in the elevator first? Not me. They're going to go down. I'm going to re-push that button again because they have priority. You're not blocking the elevator, you're not blocking the hallways, you're not making a ton of noise if possible, and your job is, that was a weird accent, your job is to get in and out as fast as possible and as, discreet as possible. You don't want to make a big scene because a lot of these people here already have memory problems, and they see someone come in pulling a bunch of stuff out, They don't know who it's for, who it's from, what it's for. So you just want to be as like calm as possible at these places. I honestly love working at these places for multiple reasons. I've talked about it before. But I was telling her all this stuff, and she was like, I'm super excited. Let's go ahead and set up something a little closer to when we have our residents in, and my manager above me is here. We can sit down and talk about everything. And I said, excellent. I'll send you an email. She gave me her card. I said, I'll send you an email, try to set up an appointment in a couple weeks so we can sit down, talk a little bit more about it, and then, we can look into maybe doing a vendor position or something. Because she had mentioned, I'll go ahead and put you on our list before we even open, which is good. That's what I wanted. So, I like to use examples and I like to use names. I think it helps build credibility and makes it look like you know what you're talking about, especially if you can name drop. Anyone can go Google what does junk removal services do in an apartment building, and it's going to spit out 5 or 6 different things. But if you can say, yeah, I've done work for ABC Apartments and I've done work for, and then just name the property manager, it makes you look like you actually have been there. You've actually have done the job. So I like to do that, especially if they happen to know that person and they can say, hey, have you ever used clutter reduction junk removal? And they can look back at their records and say, yeah, we did. He took care of our excessive trash around our dumpsters about a month ago. Did a great job. Everything was a smooth process. So it could be great. That's all I needed to hear. And then it just kind of helps build your referral a little bit. So those are the 2 things I like to push for. I forgot to mention something. When you go anywhere basically for business, so if you go to a senior living facility to do a job, you go to storage unit to do a job, you go to an apartment building to do a job, always try to make it a point to talk to the manager at some point before you leave. Introduce yourself. You can even mark it, but try to find out their name. And then that way in the future, whether you go back to remarket again and try to introduce yourself all over again, you can name drop the manager. You can say, hi, is so-and-so here? And they're like, oh, do you have an appointment? I'm like, no, but I met with them last time about my business. I just wanted to What? So I just wanted to revisit that. Look at this little thing. What do you want? So I just wanted to go ahead and touch bases again on what we talked about last time. Even if the manager doesn't remember who you are, as long as you do. And you can do the same thing when you go to a senior living facility or you go to a storage unit. Not to mention, if you're already there, it helps to market because then it kind of tackles 2 birds, what's it saying? It kills 2 birds with 1 stone. If I'm going to a storage unit, my first thing I'm going to do before I leave is go pop into the manager's office. I'm going to go say, hey, my name is Chris. I just got done handling one of your clients that had a storage in here. We just cleaned it out. I was wondering if I could drop off some cards with you for future residents. And if you guys happen to have a vendor position available, is that something that I can hop into? And before I leave, I'm probably going to put a yard sign somewhere near the property as well. So that's something I like to push for. But find out who it is that you're doing work for at that property so that way you can use their name for your benefit in the future. Now, when I am doing email follow-ups, I like to send my initial email. If I have never contacted them before, it's going to be a more professional formatted email. It's going to have a little bit more words in it. It's going to make me look really pretty and nice. And it's going to help kind of stand out as if I was a franchise reaching out to them. But I like to always throw in a little bit of kind of plugins that kind of help me stand out as a small business, usually geared around focusing on values that would be beneficial for them, such as scheduling and timing. And then if I don't hear from them within about a week or so, I'll wait another week and then send them a follow-up email, switch up the subject a little bit and change up the text just a little so it doesn't look like I just copy and pasted a new email to send them. But that's my follow-up email, is basically just a follow-up. So it's the same format, but just kind of switch around the words a little bit. And if I still don't hear from them, I'll just start sending them an email every month, and I'll try to stop by that place and reintroduce myself. So that's what I like to do when it comes to doing the emails. Now, if I've already met the person, there's some contact there, there's some rapport, they already know my name or my face, the email is going to be much less wordy. It's going to be a little bit more discreet and to the point. And I might just throw in more like of a bullet point fashion of here's how we can benefit you. Here's some of the places we've worked with. If you have any contact with them, we're happy to have you contact them for references. And I would just really love the opportunity to work with you. Working at senior living facilities give us such pride and joy because we know how difficult it is for seniors when there's so much stuff going on, and we understand that, and we enjoy the work or something, right? That's usually what I say. So it's just being professional, but name dropping helps credibility, and giving examples kind of helps solve questions that they may have to make sure that you know what you're talking about. So if someone were to come to me and say, "Hey, I want to work with your business. I could help grow your business, and I could do this and that," and I'm like, "Okay, well, what do you know about junk removal?" And they're like, "Oh, well, you just remove the stuff people don't want." I'm like, "Okay, but what specifically do we do? How do we do it? What is our target market? Are you just gonna market for me just to market and just do cookie cutter stuff because it works for everybody else, or are you actually gonna market me as a junk removal business?" So like I'm gonna be asking them questions. So if they were to come up to me with like ready to go format and say, "Hey, I can help your junk removal business grow. I can help target your audience, which is going to be usually between the women of 35 and 55 plus, seniors, property manager, real estate agents, different professional buildings. I can kind of help set you up to where you're talking one-on-one with them and put you in front of them to where you can then market a little bit more specifically, and I can help target your ads towards blah, blah, blah." Right? If they're already naming off all these examples, then that tells me that they already know about the business and that I'm going to be more trusting towards them versus the other guy who's just going to promote my business in the same way he promotes a gas station, the same way he promotes a embroidery shop. So I just feel like leading with names and examples helps you stand out and builds credibility and builds trust with the person you're talking to. So that is what we're doing today. And then we're going to update some pictures on the website and update the SEO keywords and the image description to refresh it up a little bit. And then reach out to a few other people, all while watching Mr. Andy Weens on YouTube, because I am trying to really find a good solid system for my scrapping to really maximize how I do things and how I store things and how often I make runs for. So that was always my problem with scrapping, is like I'll wait until my little side area of my house is full and I'll just run a trip up there, which basically fills my truck bed, but I'm only making like $30-$40. Now, that's not bad per se, because if you think about the cost of going to get rid of it, we talked about this in profit versus income in the video a couple ago. If I save $20 at the dump and make 35 at the scrapyard, I actually made 55. So, but nonetheless, a point he mentioned, which I found super helpful, was to wait until you have a couple $100 worth of stuff in any ways you can do it. So if you need to break it down so it's smaller and easier to store, if you need to focus on the more expensive kind of stuff that you can get your money for, or whatever system you need to set up, do what you can and then make big trips so it's worth it each time. So that's something that I've already started implementing, and now I'm just kind of learning how to really maximize what it is I'm breaking down, what it is I'm scrapping. And something that I made a mistake of in the past was I got super into it and like I was only focusing on that. So like I had some like lamps, for example, or some speakers. I was like, I'm going to bash this up and take out all this stuff and break it all down. And in reality, I'm only going to get like probably 50 cents, a couple of dollars for each piece. I've broken some lamps before that like I could have probably sold that lamp for like $15-$20 because it was a nice lamp, but I just saw the brass on it and I was like, ooh, brass. So that's also something I'm focusing on myself. But enough of that. That's how we're going to do marketing. Hopefully those 2 tips helped with the names and the examples. They've worked for me umpteen times, and they're huge, I think, for like you can just see in the person's face when you're talking to them. Like the moment you start name dropping somebody and like they pick up on it, you can usually see like they'll like kind of tilt their head a little, or they'll raise their eyebrows, they'll smile, and then they'll follow up on that, which tells me that I just struck a positive nerve in them that says, hey, I'm going to be more inclined to talk to this guy now. So that's it for me. Hauling and balling.